Welcome back to our channels, Warriors. We're growing. We're growing at an exponential speed. We're about to break a record. Make sure you like and continue to subscribe and share this channel. This topic is going to be a little bit on the serious side. All right, you're going to have to watch all the way to the end to see exactly what I mean. The dark side of the job. One can expect negative stuff to happen in a prison, but there's different levels to this kind of stuff. Through my experiences and through my life, I've witnessed some true carnage. I've seen people die by being stabbed. I've seen people die by being shot. I've seen people die by being blown up. But there's two other ways that I've seen people die that are different than those. And it involves a human taking their own life. You see, the first three that I mentioned were acts of violence upon another person. But what I'm about to get into, and the stuff we see as correctional staff, and how it affects our life, I'm talking about overdoses and suicides. I've seen way too many that I can count. I honestly cannot even count them. How many I've seen die as a result of overdoses and suicide inside of a prison. Overdoses happen as a result of getting drugs inside of a institution, right? I already told you, people are doing criminal organizations. People are still moving money, moving things around. It's prison. I told you it's a community inside of community. Fentanyl. When fentanyl hit the scene, I remember when it hit the scene. Because people were overdosing. People were dying at a different rate, at an accelerated rate, at a higher level. And it was due to the potency, how much stronger that was compared to the regular heroin, brown, as they call it. And for those of you guys that have never been around heroin or had to search for it or look for it, it has a vinegar smell to it. That was something I was explained prior to working there, and then that's something that I had the opportunity once doing a cell search, and you would find it. It's like, well, what is this? It could be anything. And yeah, once you test it, it'll turn out to be heroin. Self-medication, addiction, slamming dope. It's dark, and when you're in a prison cell, and if your cellmate is out to work in the kitchen, and you take that hit, and you go unconscious. See, one thing I learned about overdosing is that they say it's not the heroin that kills you. They say that it's the results that happen as a result of taking it. It slows down your breathing so much that you stop breathing, which is nuts. We would find them. We would find them too late. Often. What it looked like was an officer in the building doing a cell search and seeing an inmate on the floor in puke, in throw up, bloated, depending on what stage they were in, blue. And there's a procedure we go for that. There's a procedure we do after. We sound our alarm. We get on the radio. We call for help. We call immediate assistance to preserve this individual's life. We have special medical equipment in the control booth, such as an ambu bag, which breathes in for you into the mouth of the victim. It's a little baggie. And on our person, we carry mouth barriers, the barriers that you see kind of out on the streets, that maybe even the paramedics carry. None of this stuff we carry for fun. It's for a purpose, and this is the purpose that I'm talking about. I've seen bravery, selflessness, and I've seen it over and over and over again. Thousands. I already told you I lost count. Where they'll crack the cell, officers dragging with all their weight, dead weight, a body. Risking injury to themselves, throwing out their back at times, throwing out their shoulder. All for what? To preserve this person's life. Because at that point, we don't see them as an inmate, blue versus green. We see it as a lifeless body. A lifeless body that needs to get resuscitated with training that we're provided with. CPR, first aid. As peace officers, correctional peace officers, we go through this training annually, sometimes more frequently than annually. Sometimes people take it upon themselves to go get their own personal training outside, paying out of their own pocket to better preserve life. Because it'll benefit them inside of a prison and it'll benefit them outside of a prison system. God forbid something happens to one of their loved ones. Once they drag this individual out, they start immediate CPR. All right, pumping on the chest, and everybody is moving simultaneously. Even the inmates know what time it is, and they can agree to this. Or they can drop it in the comments if I'm telling the truth. They kind of stand back because it's one of those moments. No, they do stand back because it's one of those moments. One of those moments that are like, damn. Damn, there's another one, and damn, these cops are doing their thing, right? Everything's moving in motion. You have a cop bringing in the gurney, the orange stretcher. You have people on the radio calling for an outside ambulance from the hospital to come fast. You have our local ambulance coming in fast. You have the sergeant responding from the program office, from his office, with Narcan on his belt. Narcan, that stuff they use out on the streets. What that does, it blocks the high and it reverses the effects. I don't know the technicalities of it, but wow, that, if they're not already dead, that'll definitely bring them back for sure. Pumping on the chest, right? Now medical gets there, pumping on the chest. They'll bring out the shockers that you see on TV. They put the pad here, they put the pad here, you hear it. Stand by. You hear it, right? Administer shock. And then you push the little button and it'll shock. These are officers, these are nursing staff doing this. There needs to be some recognition for that. There does, because it's selflessness at that time. Often they come back, and they come back combative, right? They've been out, they're throw up, they blue, stiff. They come back combative at times, so we have to restrain them by grabbing their arms, by grabbing their legs, by holding them down so that we don't get injured in the process, by handcuffing them, right? We got to handcuff them in the back so they don't batter us in the front. All these things are taking effect, but I want you to imagine what the officer goes through during this period of time. It psychologically and mentally takes its toll, having to do it over and over and over again. One can easily throw out a quick idea and say, well, why don't you stop the drugs from coming in? Anybody that knows anything will know that that's probably just like saying, why don't you stop the drugs from coming into America? And then there's those times where they die, where they're dead, where they're lifeless. It was an 18-year-old kid at Centinela. I remember, not 18, he was young. 21, actually. 21, not 18. He was 21. A white dude. He had overdosed on something. He was at the ICU, plugged up to the machines, and his grandfather, probably a decent man, looked like a decent man, older dude, came in, looked at the body, and said, what a waste, and walked out. I was an officer, new, young, and I remember thinking, damn. That inmate did end up making a recovery, and I told myself, this dude doesn't even realize what he has. what the hurt that he's inflicted. That is overdosing. The other one is suicide. I could probably make 10 different videos on suicide inside of prison. Again, there's measures in place. We walk around. When we're walking around, we're not walking around to catch you doing inappropriate things. Well, yeah, we are, but also understand that it's preservation of life. To make sure that you're not hanging from the light fixture. To make sure that you're not hanging from the shelving unit against the wall. To make sure you didn't tie up a little noose on the edge of your bunk, get on your knees, and lean forward. Lean forward until you just choke that last ounce of breath out of your body. I've seen that too. That even made me think like, how the hell did he do that? Tied a rope to the corner of his bunk, got on his knees, and just leaned forward until he died. That one happened when I was a sergeant. Alpha Yard, Donovan. 6 o'clock in the morning. I was a sergeant doing a swap for another sergeant. 6 o'clock in the morning, I have my coffee in hand. As I'm about to take the first drink, I hear the alarm and the radio go off. Central Control, be advised, unresponsive inmate, housing unit 3. I instantly, without even going over there, I knew it. Suicide. The dude's dead. Now, how did I know that? Because he did it at the right time. He did it on the graveyard shift where there's less movement, there's less eyes watching, where it's going to take a little bit of period of a longer time for to spot that. Versus all the other guys that cry wolf, because they do, and manipulate the system, which in turn messes it up for the real people that need the help. And I'm glad I'm putting this out there. I'm glad I'm putting those dudes out on blast. At Donovan, and I will reiterate, there is one good yard at Donovan, so don't get it twisted. The other ones, you got that. Dudes that are like, oh, I didn't get my way, oh, I'm suicidal. Oh, I didn't get my bed move, oh, I'm suicidal. Oh, I'm going to punch a cop in the face, turn around, oh, I'm suicidal. Right? This is what I'm talking about. They play the game when in reality there is people dying. So it is hard for a cop. It's frustrating for a sergeant, for a lieutenant. It is your day in, day out. In that case that I told you about, housing unit 3, that inmate died. For sure that inmate died. But that didn't stop us from doing the first aid. That didn't stop us from doing CPR. We're not doctors. We're told you're not a doctor. You can't pronounce nobody dead. Only a doctor can. So you are pumping on the chest, all the way from the housing unit, all the way inside of the institutional ambulance, all the way to the outside ambulance until a doctor or an EMT pronounces them deceased. Then comes the notifications. Then comes the reports. As a lieutenant, I had to do the job of calling the next of kin, the family members. That's rough. That's horrible. That's not cool. So I told you I've seen all types of death in all kinds of ways, but that those two strike me different because they are different. So how does it affect somebody like me when I go home? Well, this is something that I had to identify. Being at my child's birthday parties, being at the holiday events at my family's house, when I'm quiet, when I'm stone-faced, when my emotions, and I'm just cold, right? Not cold as in the temperature cold, cold as in almost cold-hearted, calloused to all the atrocities and loss of life. And it's not just me. I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for everyone. You guys wanted it raw. You guys wanted it uncensored. You guys want to know the truth. This is the truth. This is absolutely the truth. So if you want to spread this message more, share it. Share the message. And if you've been through that on either side of the fence, seek the proper treatment. That's called trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of people keep asking me, do you have to go to war to get that PTSD thing? No, absolutely not. It's trauma. Get the help. Keep pushing forward.